Are we recording?
We're live, yeah.
Yay. Okay, so my name is Lisa Klotz and I am from Cal Waste Recovery Systems. And today we're going to have a tour of our facility. If you were coming to visit us and actually walk through, you'd be greeted by my little fellow here. I always put him out front so everybody knows where to come in, which door to come in. But we'll be touring our facility with a virtual tour and a recording. We'll also be talking a lot about garbage, recycling, and what happens to it. And that's kind of what we are here to learn today. So before I get started with anything, yes, I see hands already.
So let me go ahead and start hosting on my part, please. Joseph Montoya, I'm the Farms Leadership Coordinator for the Sacramento Valley and San Joaquin region. And we'll be being hosted by Lisa Klotz of Cal Waste. And before we get into that, let's go ahead and get introductions from some of our high school students from the San Joaquin region. How about we get started with Owen? Owen is looking very content. Owen, excellent student from Historic Durham Ferry. Owen, go ahead and put your name, your grade, high school, and post high school plans.
Hi, my name is Owen Rockman. I'm a sophomore at Historic Durham Ferry. I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing post high school yet, just trying to get through this year as we are.
Terrific. Go ahead and call on someone next, Owen.
Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle, and I'm a senior at Health Careers Academy. Also, my post-secondary plans is to go to community college and then transfer to a UC.
Terrific. Oh, what are you studying, Michelle?
Either nursing or X-ray technician.
Terrific, terrific. All right, who's next?
Jenna.
I'm Jenna. I go to Historic Durham Ferry and I'm a junior. And my post-high school plans, I'm not sure yet what I want to do.
Excellent. Thank you, Jenna. Who's next?
Jada. Hi, I'm Jada. I go to Historic Durham Ferry. I'm a junior and I don't have any plans at the moment for post-high school.
Right, all right. Undecided.
Did Josie already go?
Excuse me for a moment really quickly.
Speaker is good. So I believe Josie also goes to Historic Durham Ferry. I'll go ahead and let her make that introduction when she's ready. In the meantime, Lisa, where are you right now? And maybe we'll get into
I am at our facility in Galt. So this is called the Materials Recovery Facility. And you see back here, oh, here, let me move my fella here. Back here. This is where the recycling comes. So it looks like garbage, but it's not. We are a materials recovery facility. You are the recycler. You decide what goes in your cart or your container. For people who work with Cal Waste, and most people have a blue container like this that they put their recycling in. And then that recycling comes to us. It gets tipped out on this floor, and we'll be talking about that a little later today. So we are in the materials recovery facility today.
Terrific, terrific. We might as well, okay. We have her back. Hi, Josie. Same introduction as usual, name, grade, high school, and post-high school plans.
All right, hello, I'm Josie Anderson. I go to Historic Durham Ferry. I'm a senior currently. My post-high school plans, I wish to go to MJC, a community college, and hopefully after that I can transfer to Fresno State.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So that wraps it up. if you don't mind, Lisa, let's go ahead and hit it from the top.
Okay, so again, I am Lisa Klotz from Cal Waste Recovery Systems. And I'm the education coordinator here, and I get the privilege to come talk to you, go into schools, talk to students, and help share the message of recycling and what we do here. Oftentimes, people think we are a landfill or a garbage dump or a transfer station, but what we are is a materials recovery facility. So what we do is recover all of those recyclables that you put in your blue cart, this blue cart. You might have a different color cart, but most of the carts for recycling these days are being uniform. They're being asked to be uniform colors. So no matter where you live, if you live in Stockton or Woodland or Sacramento or Colorado, that the recycling, you know where to put something in a recycling cart. So that's who I am. I've worked for the company about 7 years now. And since they started this facility, and had the privilege to come out and meet students such as yourselves. So I want to show you something and tell you a few things before I get started. One thing I want to show you is this big can right here. Now, you may have seen recycling picked up at your house before, and it's a big automated arm, articulated automated arm that grabs your cart and tosses it over the side. Well, way back when, they used to have to do it this way. And they would pick up these big, this is an original from the Vacraza family who started this company. See this great big thing here? It's really heavy. And what would happen is everybody would run around them and run from door to door or house to house or yard to yard. And they would toss their trash in the, or garbage or recycling in the back of this. And then one person would have to carry this around and heave it up into their truck. And so I just wanted to show you that because things have come a long way since then. And that's one of the things that we want to talk about today. So a couple of other things that I want to talk about today but I think we'll just get started on my PowerPoint that will explain things a little easier. So I'm just going to get started here and share my screen. Oh, and I am not on the first page. I was fooling around when I did that. So we are just going to start this slideshow from the beginning. And so we know who you are, the Center for Land-Based Learning. That's wonderful. I've been reading a little bit about what you do, and it's totally fascinating. And so I am really privileged to be here with you. Again, we are Cal Waste Recovery Systems, and we focus on recycling here. And so the 4 most important things to recycle, the way you decide what goes in your blue card over here, is that if you can categorize it in your mind as these 4 items: plastic, glass, metal, and paper. But you all know that. I'm sure you're all recycling. Do you help your family recycle? Are you good recyclers? Can you raise your hand if you're a good recycler? Are you kind of doing your recycling business?
I'm a good recycler.
Yeah, you try.
I don't like to bake, I don't like to brag, but I'm a pretty good recycler.
Yeah, there are times when that doesn't happen, and perhaps there isn't something available, a location to put it in. But most of the times, it's really important to think about why recycling is in our society today and how important it really has become. So one of the reasons why is there's a lot of garbage out there. And it does look a little bit like what was behind me, but this is actually a landfill. And there are tons and tons and millions of tons of garbage that is generated every day. If you just think about how full your cart is when you roll it out at the end of the week, times all of your neighbors, times your city, times every city in the state, times every state, you can see how large a problem this is. And really, individually in America today, in the United States, each person generates about 4.4 pounds of waste every day. Some of it is trash, some of it is recycling. And whenever I tell my students that, they look at me and they shake their head and they go, "Oh, no, Ms. Klotz, this is not right. How could it be?" But if you really think about it, you start off the morning, you get up, maybe you have a bowl of cereal, the box is empty, you get rid of the empty box, you go get some milk, it came to you in either a shopping bag of some kind, it gets empty, you throw it out, you go brush your teeth, you have to get a new tube of toothpaste out, you have a box that the toothpaste tube comes in, on and on and on and on it goes for the whole entire day. You don't finish your lunch, you have old homework you're pushing out of your backpack. It just goes on and on. Every day we make 4.4 pounds of trash every day, and it adds up really fast. So what our goal is to eliminate as much of that as waste that goes to the landfill as possible. So we don't want that all just to go into the hole in the ground. A landfill, they used to call it a dump. They don't call it a dump anymore. That's not a pretty word. Now they use the word landfill, and it is exactly that. It is a big hole in the ground in which you fill it up with stuff you don't want anymore. Then you cover it up with dirt, and sometimes you plant grass on the top of it, and it can look like a rolling hill. You don't even know there's trash underneath there. If you travel between Lodi, you all know where Lodi is, travel between Lodi and Stockton, and you look off to the east over there the way the sun rises, and some of those rolling hills are trash hills. You would never know it. And so they cover it up nicely, but it doesn't go away. It does not magically disappear. It stays underneath the earth for a long, long time. So what we want to do is reduce, reuse, and recycle. And the most important one is in the hierarchy of that is reduce. And I want to show you two examples right now. This is my favorite example of reducing. So you have these two items. This is made of paper. That was one of the paper, plastic, glass, or metal that you can recycle. This is made of styrofoam. It's not something you can put in your recycling cart. So when you buy these two egg cartons, very appropriate at this time of year, which one would you buy if you wanted to reduce the amount that went into the landfill? You would buy the paper one, of course, because that can go in your recycling cart right here. But this one is going straight to the landfill and just filling up more and more of that space that's in there. So the best recycler you can be is actually before you make a purchase of any kind. Kind of what I was talking about earlier about buy less, buy wisely, make good choices. The next one is reuse. Reuse it. If you bought it, reuse it as much as absolutely possible. And the last one is recycle it. Make sure it goes into your bin here. Make sure it goes into that bin right there. And then it comes to us and we sort it out to where it goes to from there. And again, all of those different items, when I was your age, I had to separate them. I had to put them in each a different container and I had to run them down the driveway and for a gentleman to jump out of his truck and throw it in. But we don't need to do that now. We do what's called single stream recycling. You need to remember what all of those items are, but they all go into one container. And that's what we do here at the Materials Recovery Facility. We sort those items out so that they can go back to the individual manufacturer who can remake that product, who can take that recyclable material and turn it into something new, give it a new life. And that's what we do here. So it takes 180 people. We have 180 people who work for us. We have 3 locations up in Arnold, in Valley Springs, and right here in Galt. And it takes about 180 people to do your recycling for you. And that can be anywhere from the driver itself to the quality control people who help separate out some of the goods so that we can be sure it's clean recycling going back to the manufacturer, to accountants and bookkeepers. We have somebody who works solely in foreign trade to be able to arrange to have shipments taken to foreign ports and foreign countries to be able to recycle them there. We have marketing personnel, graphic artists who work here to help put together our signage and our outreach policy. And then you have people like me who get to go out into the community to educate. So it takes 180 people in order to be sure that you are recycling properly. And so you might wonder how Cal Waste ever became a leader in helping with the local environment, because we don't think of ourselves just as a place to get rid of your waste or just to recover your recycling. Our goal is really about keeping our environment clean, healthy, and safe. It's about clean air, clean water, clean land to grow your food on, for wildlife to live in, to irrigate your crops with. It's all about the environment that we live in and how to keep it the healthiest possible for us to live in. And that's really what our goal is here. But I thought you'd find it fun since that's where we're going to see what we do here, if you found out a little bit more about the history of garbage. So this is kind of fun. I like this part. So see those nice little old ladies here in the middle, right here? They're kind of walking down the street, and see this, right? That's a pile of garbage. Just like when you were in your English lit classes and you were learning about Shakespeare, or them tossing their trash out of the window. That's exactly what happened in big urban cities before there was sanitation departments. They just threw it on the street, just like this. Really, it's pretty amazing. Don't you just think that was a nice afternoon breeze coming by, and how that would smell when you walked to your little market down the street? And that's exactly what happened, is that they just piled up and people just walked right over the top of it. In New York City, they used to send pigs out to eat it. And then pigs got to be a problem, so they sent dogs out to chase the dogs. But they never carried away the trash. It was amazing. And if you got stuck in the trash, they just left you there. Go figure. So pretty soon, some cities decided that we better clean this up, and they would have a sanitation department, and they'd put it in a little cart and they'd haul it out to the outskirts of the city to big piles in the outskirts of the city. They'd catch on fire, and they'd run out of room to put it in a pile in the city, because the city would be growing around the pile now. So what would happen is they would take it and they would dump it in the bay or the estuary or the river, because they were running out of room to build. So they would do this as landfill. This is a landfill. And actually New York City is built on, 1/3 of New York City is built on landfill that is actually used to be a dump. And so that's kind of what would happen to them. But then, then that wasn't so respectable to do either. And they ran out of room in their ports, and they didn't want to cut off their shipping. So they decided that they would put it on barges and they would ship it out to sea. Out it went. That's right. Big barges of trash, simply out to the ocean and dump them out. This practice did not stop happening until the 1980s. It was not outlawed by the United States until the 1980s. They continued to haul trash out to sea because they didn't quite know what to do with it. Because, oh yes, surprise, it does not magically disappear. And so that's when recycling really started to take hold. There was activists that were out there that were trying to get the impression about how recycling can save our natural resources, keep our landfills from filling, and really help take care of our environment. And so that's how Cal Waste started. That's kind of how they started. I want to show you this picture. This was the first horse and wagon that Cal Waste had in 1927. We were founded in 1927. And the owner walked through the streets of Lodi. He's from Lodi, and he was from Lodi, and went to the city council and said, our city stinks and I can fix it. I have a hog farm. I'm going to come pick up all this trash and take it out and feed it to my hogs. And the city council, good politicians that they are, you know how smart they are, they said, you bet, please take it, but you have to take it all. You can't just take the food, you have to take everything. And so, well, he goes, okay, that's a good deal. And so after a while, they were able to buy the Vacaraza family, who continues to own Cal Waste today, 5 generations, still a family-owned business here in Central California. They were really big on technology. And so anything that made it easier to remove this waste from their city. So what happened, do you notice these 2 guys back here? And there's piles of trash right here, but there are 2 buckets right back here. What would happen is they would be sorting. They were the first materials recovery people. They would be sorting things out as the truck was going along. And these little guys were throwing it and taking it in the back. They'd be sorting. They had their own mobile materials recovery facility. And what would happen is people would come along behind them and say, excuse me, I could use those boards. My fence is broken, or I could use that pipe or those glass jars. And recycling really took hold. And the owners of the company understood that recycling was a huge part of actually removing the waste from their city. And so here's a picture. The next piece of technology we had were these tipping trucks so that we could get the trash out once we put it in. And you see those big cans that they were carrying. That's like that big can I showed you before. And this one actually is the actual can that I have. That is Rudy Vacaraza, the grandpa of the company. And they continued to use those until right up into the 1970s, 1980s, when the new trucks came along. And those are the trucks with the articulated arms like this right here. Now, one of the questions we get all the time is we have 3 different carts that are put out. We have trash and yard waste, you see that here, and recycling. And we have a new kind of truck that's out there, and it's called a split body truck. You see there's 2 compartments back here. And the question we get all the time when we pick up your recycling and your trash is we do it on the same day, and we do it on the same trip with the same truck, because this truck has a compactor lever that will push it one way, and then when they put it in, it'll push it the other way, depending on which direction, whether it's going to recycling or trash. The driver has a joystick that he can move to make that compactor paddle go that direction. But we continue to get phone calls about, I took all this time to separate my recycling and you're putting it all in with the trash. Why are you doing that? We're not. We're starting to separate it right on the street. Right on the street. So this is what it looks like. This happens to be yard waste instead of recycling, and trash on the other side. And so again, those are the kinds of things we like to develop in order to be able to recycle the best way possible. And if you were going to come visit us here in Galt, you would see this first. Does anybody have any questions at this point?
I actually do.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to the yard waste?
The yard waste actually goes to a composter, and we take it to Central Valley Composting, and they turn it, that's where we take most of it, and they turn it into compost that then they resell and distribute.
Terrific, terrific.
Yeah, it does not go into the landfill. Some of the composting goes to what's called alternative daily cover. And so on a landfill, they don't want things blowing away. If you've ever been by a landfill, I don't know whether you have or not, but usually there's like seagulls on it and vectors carrying stuff away and smell. And so what at the end of each day, landfills are required to put what's called alternative daily cover on it to keep it from blowing away or attracting vectors. And so sometimes it's used for that. But more and more with the rules about organic waste, it now has to be composted and turned into something new and not put in the landfill as cover. Good question. Excellent question. So this is the front of our company. Again, we're 93 years old, founded in 1927. Same family has owned it, 5th generation now. And when you come and see us, you would come and walk through our customer service department. We have 6 people down there every day. We answer our phone. You don't have to go to a voicemail box or choose a number. We answer our phones. And the next thing you would do when you were here is you would be given a safety vest like this, because we don't stop working when you come visit us. So everybody who's out in our yard is required to wear a vest like this, safety glasses, ear protection. And if we're walking way out in the yard and in the materials recovery facility, we have to wear our helmets as well. But safety is a really big factor here. So you would be issued a safety vest, and this is the first place we would go, would be this red platform. And this red platform is a scale, actually, and you'll see a little bit about it in our the video of our virtual tour. And what it does is it weighs everything into our facility and weighs everything back out again. You go, oh yeah, that's really simple. Not so much. It all comes in, remember, single stream recycling, all mixed up together, and then it goes through our process and it's separated out individually into different bales of product or truckloads of product of only crushed glass or only bales of plastic water bottles or only tin cans. And then we have to weigh each one of those out, and any residual, we call it residual, but that's the trash that ends up in the recycling, because there's about 1/4 to 1/3 that is trash that gets put into the recycling cart because people just are not really sure what should go in that recycling cart. And so sometimes they'll just put it in hoping it's recycled because they want to be a good recycle. It's called wish cycling. And what happens is it keeps us in business because we have to sort it out. So this is this portion of this scale is an extremely important first step of every truck that comes and visits us and every truck that leaves. The next thing you would do is go back and we would walk in our yard to see the different types of trucks and how they haul the trash, recycling, and yard waste away, how they do their servicing. And then we would go into the shop and we would see how our mechanics care for our trucks. It's kind of like going to the doctor when you're not really sick. We wanted them checked up so that there's no breakdowns on the road. These are huge 55,000 pound trucks. And we don't want anything happening to them to break down on the road or something to happen when they're in front of your house or behind your school. So a lot of preventative maintenance as well as repair. And then the last place you would come to would be this location, which is where we are right now. You can see this is where I'm standing about right here right now, and you're looking out this window. And this is our education room. We have lots of school and community tours that come through. Not this year so much, but in previous years, you could come to actually visit us and go for a walk out there. So what I would like to do now is I want to show you some of the technology it takes to recycle and sort our recycling. So I'm going to stop share for a second and pull up a video for you. We're just going to move right on to this video. Let's see if I can find it. Here it is. And that's bales of steel cans. We don't want that one. So, okay, let's see where I was playing with the videos before I started. So I am going to stop sharing again. I need to escape this. I usually have it up. Escape, and what I want to do is pull this over here. This is what I want. Okay.
Hello, I want to welcome
Hang on a
you.
second. I got it. I've got it here. I'm going to get back to my Zoom class. Where are you? You're down here. Here we go. All right. Sorry for that little blip in my program, but we're going to start right here. Here we go.
To the Cal Waste Recovery Systems Materials Recovery Facility. We're going to tour our facility today and find out all the different people and jobs and things that take place so that we can take care of your recycling. Cal Waste was founded in 1927 and continues to be a family-run company serving the greater California area and beyond. We strive to be a leader in our industry, always raising the bar with technology and new innovation, producing the highest level of clean, marketable products. Starting with our customer service, we are committed to helping you with your needs. Our mechanics, technicians, and maintenance personnel are dedicated to safety, which is why our fleet of residential and commercial trucks are meticulously maintained to ensure the safety of our communities in which they navigate. Our team is held to the highest of standards, and we are proud to serve you. Today, we are going to be learning how recycling is processed. All trucks stop at a giant red scale as the driver verifies the contents while the scale weighs the truck with its load. Once completed, our trucks go to the tipping floor, where residential and transfer trailers release their loads. Here, a conveyor system at the bottom of this trailer, called a walking floor, pulls material onto the tipping floor. This is how we receive and process up to 400 tons per day. And this is our MRF, the Materials Recovery Facility. In the first step of the process, material is moved into a large conveyor, which brings it to this drum feeder. Cords and rope-like items can damage the drum feeder and must be cut away by hand. You can see why we ask that these are not placed in your recycling cart. The drum feeder allows light material over the top and heavier items to ride under the drum for more efficient elimination of non-recyclables. The material is then fed to a screen of rotating discs called an auger. The separated materials fall down onto another conveyor belt, and the material flowing over the top heads to the pre-sort line, where quality control personnel pull items out that are not recyclable. One of the biggest misconceptions is plastic bags. Plastic bags are reusable, but they are not recyclable. The material then moves to a second screen, separating into two different paths. On one path, the glass falls to the bottom and is crushed into cullet. Another machine magnetically removes caps and lids. The glass then enters into a process called lights out. Glass cullet is fed into an air expansion chamber, separating the cullet from the fiber and grit. The clean, recycled glass falls to the bottom of the chamber and is then delivered to a trailer for transport. Back to the second path. Our quality control personnel verify that all contamination has been removed from the processed cardboard. After it is verified, the journey for the cardboard is collected in a silo and ends, for now. But the recycling process does not stop here. The remainder of the material moves through one of our state-of-the-art optical sorting systems. This is our optical sorting machine. We have 5 optical sorters, 3 fiber, and 2 plastic systems. Each optical sorter can be programmed to identify any individual item through a sophisticated software analyzing the chemical compounds of each material. This provides ultimate separation of recyclables at a remarkably high speed. Using near-infrared technology, optical sorters are programmed to eject and retain specific items and materials. In this case, we have a plastic sheet and paper. Notice how the paper flies up, but the plastic flows down. This happens because a digital signal is sent to a series of pneumatic ejectors, which apply air at 100 psi to separate materials on a conveyor moving at speeds of up to 1,000 feet per minute. Before paper moves for collection, our quality control personnel verify that all contamination has been removed. And now it's time for plastic. This optical sorter provides accurate separation of specific plastics from the mixed waste stream by classifying resins, polymers, and other packaging according to their unique signature. From here, a magnetic drum continuously extracts ferrous metal, like soup cans, from all other containers. The remaining materials are diverted to a quality control sort line to ensure that all items are recycled at the highest degree. Near the end of the journey, our javelin separates non-ferrous metals, such as aluminum, by creating an eddy current. Material is fed onto a conveyor belt, which moves across a spinning magnetic rotor, forming a magnetic field around the piece of aluminum, causing it to be repelled or pushed away. The material that is left is trash. It's carried off by a conveyor, then loaded into trucks to be taken to the landfill. Now that all the materials have been sorted, the product is held in individual silos or bunkers. When full, sensors release the product into the conveyor belt, leading to one of two balers. This is a baler. Balers use 200 horsepower compactors to bale the individual variety of recyclables you send us. Basically, they smash things into cubes like metals, plastics, and in this case, paper. The baler is filled with product, compacted, filled, compacted again up to 6 times. Central computers determine the volume and capacity of each type of product. And then another machine deploys a wire to secure the product in perfect pallet-sized bales. These bales are loaded into trailers, ready for transport. That bottle, can, or cardboard box you placed in the recycling container is now off on a journey by truck, train, and ship to be made into a new item. We hope you've enjoyed learning about what happens to your recycling. Our dedication to processing your recyclables supports our communities and environment, ensuring the cleanest, highest grade recyclables possible. And it all starts with you.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Let's stop share this for a second. I hope you enjoyed that. It's an interesting process, and it's the majority of it is automated. And one interesting fact is that we did a little study here one day. We wanted to know how long it took to actually go through the entire process. So we painted some soda bottles bright fluorescent pink, and we dropped them in right where the first bucket loader put it in before the drum feeder. And then we had somebody else standing on the other end when it gets to the silo, and we kind of compared our watches together. It takes 3 minutes, just a little over 3 minutes, not even 3.5 minutes to go through the whole entire process of being sorted from this pile until it's getting ready to be baled. It's pretty cool.
That's a lot of material moving through there. And it seems like there's still, some people that, people need to be there to like hand sort, but it seems like there's a lot of tech being utilized there. I have to ask, do you know, or where does that come from? Like, who develops that? Do they buy it? Do they do it, the R&D themselves? How does that happen?
We have a company that we worked with called CP, and they engineer these items, these different kinds of items that are the machinery that's here. And they have a whole tech crew that develops the programming systems that go with them and how they interact with particularly the optical sorters. One thing that we aren't able to show really clearly because we keep our video kind of short is that the technology that's used to control it isn't just the big thought machine, the big HAL computer there that you saw, but each one of our leads, our supervisors on the floor, has a little screen, handheld screen, like a little iPad, and they can make adjustments to the flow of the material, the speed of the machines, and the elevation of the conveyor belts that are up and down, which help it go faster or slower or fall farther. And all of that can be done through these little handheld devices, as well as being able to tell the optical sorters to accept or reject any item. And they don't do it by, oh, this is a bottle or this is a can. They do it by shooting light on it. And as it bounces back, the light rays bounce back, it tells us what it is. It's a number 3 plastic, it's a number 5 plastic, it's a metal, it's paper, something else so it accepts and rejects, and it goes through it 5 different times.
It's amazing.
Pretty cool.
Different sorters, yeah.
And then people are still, there's nothing like a human being though, because there are things that get through that are dirty or contaminated, or items that are multiple. They're maybe a cardboard box with a big plastic sheet on it or something like that. You know, those clamshells that you get lots of things that are harder than the dickens to get open to get your little machine out of the inside of it. And there's paper inside. So sometimes we have to, it's still the human person has to be there to make sure we get all the recycling we possibly can. Yeah.
So that definitely brings up something. How do we, or what are some of the things that we most end up in the recycle container when they should be in the garbage, or vice versa?
I am so glad you asked, because I have 3 examples right here. The first one is plastic bags. You heard me say in the video, no plastic bags. And the reason why is they get twisted up in our machines and they break our machines. This is part of a screen that was spinning around that helps move things along. And this one was broken because there were plastic bags that were tied up around it. And so when you think about how fast they move, how heavy and large the equipment is, when these plastic bags get wrapped up around them, it's devastating. The other thing is we don't know what kind of plastic it's made out of, and we are required to send things back to where it can be made into something new. And the manufacturers almost always accept one kind of plastic, a number 1, like a water bottle, or a number 2, like a milk jug, that kind of thing. The second thing that never goes in your recycling are these bad boys. No batteries. We'd like you to recycle batteries, but you have to recycle them at either a hazardous waste facility, or you can take it to Lowe's or Home Depot. In Galt, in front of our police station, we actually have a repository for them. It's kind of like a mailbox. You can go and drop them in. But in the last year, we tracked 4 different fires in our facility back to batteries. And what happens is you saw the big front loader out here scooping things up. These get on the ground. The front loader glances off. They're heavy and small, so they sift down through everything onto the cement. The front loader glances off of it. It sparks, boom, fire. So we cannot accept these in our recycling. And the last one is the dreaded pizza box. Okay, so like you'd like to think that this is recyclable. It's made out of cardboard, but all of that on the inside of it contaminates it. And this is one of the reasons why China has stopped taking a lot of our paper and plastics, because our recyclables were so contaminated. And so now we can't take this. When you recycle paper, it's a pulp process. It's a water and chemical heat-based process. And it does not work well with the oils that are inside the contamination of food. So pizza boxes, we get lots of them. Plastic bags, we get lots of them. They keep us in business, trying to get them out of there. Those are the 3 biggest offenders. 3 biggest offenders.
Yeah, thank you.
Great question. Great question.
Any questions from any of our farm students so far? Owen Rockman, when you're ready.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
So I've read, I don't know like how credible this is, so take it with a grain of salt, but I've read that some producers and manufacturers choose to still like create their own plastics instead of using recycled materials. Why is that?
At the very end of the PowerPoint, I was going to reveal that to you, but I'll tell you right now, because it's cheap. So economics, because people keep buying it. So as long as you buy it, remember what we talked about in the beginning about reducing? That's the best way to recycle. Just don't buy it. If you don't buy it, they won't make it. But what happens is we as consumers drive a lot of what's there, and a lot of marketing. I am partially in marketing, and so it just kills me when I go to the store and I go buy a tube of toothpaste, and the box has all this little holographic, sparkly little things on the front of it, and you're going, "Ooh, it's going to make my teeth that white too." No, it's not. But it gives you that illusion. But what happens with that box, it's not recyclable anymore because it has a thin sheet of metal in it, sandwiched on the paper, sandwiched between 2 pieces of plastic. We can't recycle it. The same way with coffee cups. Your favorite Starbucks Dutch Bros, whatever it is, your beverage of choice is, inside that hot cup is a micro thin sheet of plastic. We cannot recycle that paper cup. So there's a lot of things that are out there that's one of the reasons why. And as long as you buy them, they'll make them. I hate to say it, but that's, and cost, because it's cheap. It's cheap.
So there's definitely a couple of things that, I don't know, we could change with habits. I don't know, with one of the things being bringing your own cup into Starbucks and ask them to use that. You know, I always wonder, do you know if there's, I mean, this probably isn't your forte, but if there's an alternative to pizza boxes, like what else could we use? Because like, yeah, that's the thing, right? The oils permeate the cardboard, and now you can't. It's not recyclable.
Yeah, there really isn't. Now, some people they have like a sleeve they put on the inside. If it doesn't melt all the way through and the oil doesn't get all the way through it, but that then becomes a plastic sleeve. And a little plastic, you guys see the little plastic table thing they put in there so that your lid doesn't get squashed down and then the cheese doesn't get stuck to the top. Yeah, you can do that, but there really isn't one. The best thing you can do, the best thing for your health too, would be to make your own pizza at home. And then you don't have to, and then then you're not faced with that. So convenience, again, as long as people are ordering pizzas to go that are already cooked. So if you go like to Papa Murphy's or something like that, not to call out brand names, but that's the take and bake pizza. They have a paper on the bottom, but it is plastic and it's wrapped in saran wrap. That's not much better. So because all of that has to go directly to the landfill. So it's a lot in our habits and how we become the disposable society. And we do so many things for convenience because there's so many other opportunities out there for us to do something. Why do we want to go home and make our own pizza from scratch? So
definitely 3 things we could take away. Making our own pizza at the house, using reusables at Starbucks or at coffee places, and I don't know, different, better, more basic designs for toothpaste boxes. Like,
yeah.
I always thought that, yeah, it's like, oh, it's a little box, recycle.
Just about any kind of marketing, it really gets in the mix between something that could be truly recyclable and something that ends up having to go to the landfill. Now in Canada, they require that the product manufacturers compensate for that by having a fee that's levied on them so that they care for what happens to the product afterwards, how it's disposed of, to help pay for how it's disposed of. But if you think about it, that cost is being put back on the cost of the product, which goes back then to the consumer. It's kind of like when you go and you buy soda bottles and they charge you 5 cents a piece for them for CRV, cash redemption value. It's kind of the same thing, but it does help people think about them. And since cash redemption value has come into being, started in Oregon in the 70s, there is more and more that are being taken out of the landfill because of that, but not nearly enough. Not nearly enough.
Definitely something we need to address.
Right. So I sent you these little things here, these little magnets. I don't know, they're kind of fun to play with. And for some of my students, some of the ones in younger students, I always like to show them this. They understand clearly how a magnet will attract a metal can, like a soup can. You saw the big drum that went around that was a magnetized drum, and it would attract the cans, and then it would roll over and it would be speed just at the right speed where they'd flip off the other side and go down to a silo to be held. But what they don't understand oftentimes is the eddy current. So if you're not into physics and science, you might not understand the eddy current, but the eddy current is like taking the magnet and turning it around. Whoops, I just dropped it. And it will, and really strong ones will jump out of your hands, but you'll see they're not attracted anymore. They push each other away. You can feel that. You can feel that little bit where it pushes each other away. And that's what that eddy current does, is it takes the non-ferrous metals and that current pushes them away into the field because it's not attracted by a magnet. So it's just something I like to show that my kids, and I wanted to show you something that you had actually in your hand, but that's how that eddy current works. It's a magnetic force that pushes it away. So that's what that is. So did you have any other questions? I have just a little more to show you if I have time. I don't know. Do I have time? A little time?
You know, I think we started a little bit late, but I think we can keep going.
Okay.
Definitely want to get into what the other things that are in here, but
Yeah, I have 3 other little bags here that are with you, and I just want to explain what they are. So I'm going to return to my PowerPoint to be able to do that. And where did it go? It's right here. Okay. And I'm going to the current slide. All right, so those were my magnets. I was talking about how that's the attraction for the soup can and the eddy current pushing away the aluminum can. So there are these 4 different kinds of things that we recycle, and this is how they look in the end. They go, the glass is crushed and goes out in a truck, in a big container truck. Then the rest are baled up like this, just like hay bales. And these plastic bales, they can weigh about 1,300 pounds. Actually, they average 1,344 is how much they weigh. Some of the paper ones can be heavier, and the aluminum ones can also be a little bit heavier than that, but about 1,300 pounds for the plastic bales. We're going to talk a little bit about plastic bales if I have time. It's kind of an interesting thing, but you have these 3 bags that were sent to you. And I want to start with one that is not there. I didn't think it was necessary to send you the one on paper, send you a stick. I figured you knew what a stick was. So paper is, the natural resource for paper is wood. We all know that. And those are sent to something that looks like this, which is called a pulp mill. When they apply high heat, lots and lots of water and chemicals, and steam is released into our environment. Chemically enhanced steam is released in our environment. And they make this pulp. It's called, that's just what they call it, pulp. It's this soup, big hot paper soup. And then they roll it out and they make it into all these kinds of paper products. Now, our goal is not to use these trees and have it end up in the landfill. Our goal is to have it enter into the circle, the life cycle, and continue to be remade and remade. And paper can be remade many, many, many times. But when it gets to about Kleenex level and paper towel level, that's been recycled so many times that the fibers are so loose, that's what makes it so absorbent, are so loose that it's so much different than a piece of computer paper. And then from then on, they are going to have to go out. They've had their useful life removed from them. And the reason why we want to recycle too is because trees and forests and agriculture of all kinds are part of what helps clean our air. We like to think of it as the lungs that breathe in our planet. They take in the carbon dioxide and they breathe out the oxygen, the opposite of what we do. And so it's just really important that we preserve our natural resources. The second bag that I sent you is this little bag of sand. And you might think, okay, I've played in sand before. But it's not just any old sand. And you can't just go to the beach and scoop up this sand and make some glass out of it. This will be made into glass. And how you can tell is it sparkles. How you know you have the right sand. If you had your flashlight on your phone, you could see this. If you held it up like that, you could see how it sparkles in the bag. And that is the silica that's inside this particular kind of sand. It's called silica sand. It's a crystallized, it's a crystal product that's in this kind of sand. You have to mine it. It doesn't just come from the beach. You have to go out and dig it up and mine it. They strip mine for it. And that's what makes it the very special sand. And again, these mines are all over the world. And what we want to stop doing is using our natural resources. Just reduce that use on pressure on natural resources and reuse them. Glass can be used over and over and over again. It's that crystalline structure that makes it so clear and so strong that it will last 1,000 years in a landfill. That means those hills over between Lodi and Stockton, they're going to be there for quite some time because that glass doesn't actually break down. It only crushes down back into a sand formation. So the next thing I sent you was this cute little rock this cute little rock. You can take it out of the bag and look at it really close, and you'll see it looks like this. It has a lot of little dots inside of it. And this is called bauxite ore. And bauxite ore is the aluminum ore, that the little dots are the aluminum metal inside of this rock formation. And it is so hard, they have to drill into the ground and with dynamite, put dynamite in and then blow it up. And then they create these strip mines again. And this is what it looks like when you're mining for bauxite ore. It takes all the vegetation off, all the wildlife habitat off, everything, and you end up with these polluted pools of water that are around it as well. It's just not very good for our environment. And then they ship it off somewhere to find a port to ship it off to. And the reason why I bring this up for you, and again, all of this ore then is being made into these aluminum cans, and we use thousands and thousands and millions of these aluminum cans on a daily basis. And again, we look at this, it's about 300 years or more for them to break down in a landfill. So we want to stop digging up this ore. And I have one example for you, I'll tell you really quick. In the early 1900s, the United States provided the majority, almost all of the bauxite ore to the world. We were the first ones to find it and put it to good use. The industrial age came. We found lots of uses for this really lightweight, strong, flexible material. Then they started to build cars and car parts and airplanes out of it when airplanes were being invented and improved upon. And then there was a couple of wars that came along. The United States now has 2% of its bauxite ore reserves left. So if we want any aluminum, there's none to be had here. We have to buy it from another country. We have to do foreign trade for it, or we can just use our aluminum cans that we have and recycle those because they can be used over and over and over again. They can be sent from an aluminum can to be made into an airplane, to be made into a musical instrument with the same amount of strength. And so our natural resource now is actually the can. So this is the next thing you have, this little bag of little pellet things. Be careful, don't let them loose. And that is this is part of the plastic process. So plastic starts, if you weren't aware of it, starts as petroleum oil. And so plastic's natural resource is petroleum oil. Yes, indeed, that water bottle you drink out of is made out of the same thing that the gasoline that goes in your car is. If you think about that for a little bit, give that some thought. And so what happens is that oil is then sent to a refinery and it's broken down into these hydrocarbon molecules. And they're different kinds of plastics. And that's what ends up in this chart. You've seen it on the bottom of a bottle before, where the water bottles have a number 1. Maybe your yogurt container has a number 5 because it's polypropylene. And so all the different kinds of plastics, and this is how we identify them with our optical sorter, is what kind of plastic that really is. And so the petroleum oil is broken down into these chains of plastic. These plastics, these variety of plastics are then made into these little items. It has a very scientific name. Are you ready for it? Very scientific name. They're called nurdles. True. I am not kidding. You can look it up. They're called nurdles. And these nurdles they found was the best way to transport them. But there's a problem with that. We're going to see what that problem is. But what happens is these nurdles are then put into big like rice bags and transported in that way because they can be sent to manufacturers that melt them down and either spin them out into little threads and then weave them together to make probably the clothes you're wearing. If you're wearing any synthetic, polyester, rayon, nylon, anything like that, if you're wearing a fleece jacket, you're wearing plastic. You're wearing plastic. The other thing that happens is these little nurdles are then dyed and go into ejector molds, and they can make all kinds of widgets and things like that that we use in our daily life. Everything is made out of plastic, from Monopoly toy little markers to your car parts. Everything is made. The chair you're sitting in, the carpet you're standing on, it's all made out of plastic. And that is injection molding. So you might recognize what this injection mold is, and that is the famous water bottle. Okay, so we're going to talk about these water bottles for just a second. Water bottles. This is how I feel about water bottles. Really, they scare me. Water bottles do. Okay, so 25% of the volume of the water bottle is how much oil it takes to make one bottle. One bottle, 25% of its volume is what it takes to make the plastic to make that one water bottle. Think about how many water bottles you see in your lifetime, in a day even. And it takes 300% of the volume in water to make that water bottle. Now let's see, is that good economy? I'm not really sure. I don't think so. So again, we talk about those plastic water bottles. They don't even know how long it will be because plastic just came into being at the end of the 19th century, the beginning of the 20th century. Hasn't even been around for 150 years yet. They really ramped up using it in the 50s in the disposable society. But scientists say it'll take about 500 years to break down. So that means that every single piece of plastic that ever has been made in the world is still here. It's still here. And it hasn't really gone anywhere because it doesn't decompose. Yes, this man is telling you exactly how I feel about that. So let's talk about all those water bottles that we use. Out of 100 water bottles, only 23 get recycled. The American Plastics Association and the Environmental Protection Agency both agree that only 23 out of every 100 water bottles get recycled. Now, I know you're a good recycler. You recycle them, but a lot of people don't. And of the 77 that are left, 10 of them end up in the ocean. 10 end up in the ocean. Of the 77 that don't get recycled, end up in the ocean. And that's a lot of water bottles floating around out in our oceans. Let me tell you, it's a very scary thought. And they're not floating around like this. This is not how they end up in the ocean in some nice, cute, little fun sort of activity that we're going to do. They end up on our beaches and they float around in our water and they break down into little microplastics is what they do. I attended a sports and climate summit at Golden One Center about 2 years ago, and I met this very nice gentleman. He's a world-class surfer, and he said he is not afraid of sharks. Take the sharks. He's afraid of all this stuff. Can you see the stuff floating around in the water? Especially that bag. That is something from nature. All these items that are floating around out here in this water, if they get nicked with that and they get an infection, they could die from that, from a staph infection. And so that scares him more, that plastic and that trash in the water scares him more than sharks do. And so what happens is those water bottles and all that stuff just floats around out there in the ocean. They're out there for a long, long time, floating out in the ocean. My son was in a sailboat race that went from San Francisco to Hawaii, 12 days open water, not a sight of land around. He had a sat phone and would text me pictures of stuff that would be floating by in the water every day. And so it doesn't just float on top of the water, it sinks to the bottom. Number one, water bottles, they don't float unless the lid is on them and they're not punctured. They'll sink right to the bottom. And so what happens then is like, we don't really know how much is out there in the ocean. We don't really know. But we know that it all gets shipped out there. All these bales get shipped out there. We're going to look at how plastic ones are delivered. This is our transportation route for plastic bales. Okay, well, we ship some by truck. They go up to Northern California and some go out to Delaware. Some go out to Alabama and some go down to Arizona. A lot of them go to the port of Oakland and get shipped to Korea and China and India and Indonesia and Malaysia. They go on a cargo ship like this. They just steam across the Pacific Ocean until there's weather. And when there's weather, there are accidents. And the containers fall off into the ocean. And then they sit in the bottom of the ocean like this. And sometimes they break open. And that's what you get, is plastic on the bottom of the ocean. There's a really interesting study called, this book is called Moby Duck, but it's about some tub toys, some little ducks and some other things that fell off of a container ship in 1992 right here as it was coming from China, being shipped, these little tub toys were being shipped over to the United States, and they fell off their container. And this scientist tracked these tub toys from the markings that were on the bottom of them, and they had a big recovery session, and you got money if you found them, and you get $100 if you found them. And as more years went by, you got more and more money if you'd find one of these ducks floating around. And this is the path that he found that the ducks went. They went through the currents, the natural currents that and the gyres that are in our oceans, and some ended over here in Malaysia, some ended up in Hawaii, some went back up over here, some went down to South America. The most interesting ones went up and underneath the ice sheet, floating along underneath that sheet of ice. And in 2007, they found some in England, the same ducks with the same serial number on the bottom. That's how long they've been floating around. That plastic had been floating around in our ocean. So the really scary part about that is that these plastics don't decompose. They just break down into smaller parts called microplastics. And they get eaten by wildlife out into the oceans. And you can see here, I don't want to get into the really awful stories, but this whale had 88 pounds of plastic in him. Yep. And this is found frequently when they do autopsies on dead birds that are washed up on shore. But it isn't just the wildlife that's eating plastic. I want to bring this little one to your attention. So these plastics break down with salt water and sunshine will break down into these microplastic pieces, which then the fish and the wildlife eat, and then we eat that. So those kinds of plastics that go into the ocean actually go into you. There's a study that was done in France with 4,000 people, and they wanted to find out how many of them had microplastic inside their system. And all 4,000 had residual microplastic in their excrement, all of them, every one of them. And they did a scientific study on what that plastic was. PET, water bottle plastic, saran wrap plastic, those kinds of plastics, the things that we're eating, that we store and eat our food off of, and those things that are out into the ocean. It was determined that you and I eat approximately 1 credit card full of plastic a week. Now, it doesn't go between the cell barrier yet. In other words, the plastic goes through your system. It doesn't necessarily enter into your blood system yet. But we really don't know that much about plastic. Here's another way plastic gets into our system. This looks like a nice hiking, it looks like a really nice person. She's wearing her Patagonia fleece jacket. And when you put that Patagonia fleece jacket into the washing machine, the fibers start to break down in it. They break down in both the water, and gray water from your laundry goes straight out, goes through a wastewater treatment plant, but it will go straight out from there to the ocean, and the wastewater treatment plants do not have a filter system for microplastics. These little tiny microplastics from your synthetic fabrics and fleece enter into our waterways and our water streams, and they just go out there and they float. That's where they are. And also in a dryer. Your dryer and then your dryer vent. You've seen that lint come up in your vent before. Well, it blows out into the air as well, maybe into your garden, maybe into your yard. And that's another way that you can absorb that into your system. So this is a picture of where microfibers have been located and tracked into the oceans. It's huge. And you'll notice it's all kind of on coastlines where things are the water is flowing out into the oceans. But there's one other way that you get plastic every day that you had no idea you were doing, and that is in common table salt. There were 96 brands of table salts were studied, and all but 2 had microplastics in them. And again, if you're buying sea salt because you think sea salt's going to, grind up those big things as sea salt because that's going to be really good for you, it's some of the worst. You have to really know where your salt is coming from to be sure that you are not ingesting plastics, microplastics in your salt, in your table salt. So that's what it looks like when it goes out into the ocean. It goes out into those gyres that you saw, those ducks floating around in. It's called what's called the Pacific Garbage Patch. And the Pacific Garbage Patch is not a big patch of garbage, a big island that you can walk on. It is not like that. The majority, 99% of the Pacific Garbage Patch is underneath the water. And it's actually these microplastics. See this one right here, It's looking a little funky. It's because plastic is hydrophobic and it will attract toxins and algae to it. And so it makes this soup, this sort of plastic soup. And that's actually what the microplastics do. They create this plastic soup in the Pacific Garbage Patch. And that's what the majority of it is made out of. So there are lots of, it was a really great question about packaging and why they make this kind of product. There's lots of standardized regulations for it and policies for it. And there's laws that say you have to handle it in a certain way. And there's rules and requirements, but really it's up to you. It's up to you. If you buy it, they will continue to make it. And if they're going to continue to make it, the very best thing you can do is to be certain it ends up in this recycling bin. Because we make sure it goes back to where it can be made into something new and it's not released into our environment. So that's what we do here. That's what we do here. We recycle. And that's my story for today.
It's terrific. Thank you so much, Lisa. And one little piece is this. We received this. What is this?
That is a reusable shopping bag. So the reusable shopping bag, we encourage you to use it. We like this one. We chose this one as opposed to anything else because you can wash it and it can stay clean. So often you have things dripping in and out of it or meat juice on it or you've drug it across the ground and you can wash those and put them back. Stores are just now opting to let you use your reusable shopping bags again. Yeah. So we hope you will use those or pass it on to somebody who can use it.
Perfect. Excellent little tote. Let's see. Any questions from students so far? Any comments? Any concerns? Something they learned? Just anything at all? It's sort of a lot to take in. We covered a lot of ground. I mean, the bit about, the salt and, sea salt, which I would say about a decade ago was like, oh, sea salt, it's way better for you than regular iodized. That's crazy. And the garbage patch, the fact that everything sinks and I don't know, those ducks especially that are all over the place. And you see that, I can't remember if it's called the butterfly effect, that, something that happens here, is felt all over the world. And you see that, just like one sort of, it happens by a storm. It's naturally something that, a tanker falls over and then it affects the entire planet. So, we have to be considerate and think about how our spending habits, our spending decisions, what we support, maybe not directly, but, the companies that we buy from and the products that we purchase can affect, people on the other side of the world, but also the fact that, they will affect the lives of our kids, our grandkids, if we choose to pursue having a family, great grandkids. And you said 500 years, or we don't really know?
We don't really know. Scientists have done their studies and they say 500 years or so, but they don't really know. What they do know is it's breaking, it just goes down to smaller and smaller micro pieces, it fractures. They are working on different kinds of enzymes that can eat plastic, but that's far, far away. And so when I'm usually talking to my high school students, I say, this is an exciting open field. This is something that you could make a difference at. You can make a difference every day by deciding what you buy, but you can be the next person who has this really fantastic idea about how to solve this problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And, to put that in perspective, we were talking about 500 years, which precedes the foundation of the country that we're living in right now. So imagine 500 years ago, this place didn't even this place existed, but the infrastructure, the roads, the history did not exist yet. And so we can only imagine, that these things, that these little tiny microscopic pieces of plastic, et cetera, will outlast that. And who knows, what the future holds, but hopefully less of these plastics in the ocean. And I don't know, just less plastics in general.
It speaks to our society too, because if you are interested in archaeology or any of those historic kinds of digs that they have, they're always pulling out a gold piece or a glass or a clay or a glazed, and those are thousands of years old. They're going to be pulling up plastic. You're going to be pulling up those little tube containers of M&Ms. That's what this little mini M&M tube containers and all kinds of toothbrushes and all kinds of crazy stuff. So.
Excellent. That's terrific. If there's no more questions, we can, this bit.
Oh, that's just for you. That's just a happy Earth Day. Earth Day is April 22nd. And so it's just some wildflowers for you to plant and give some thought to your environment.
Terrific. And to all the students whom participated or attended the Boggs Track Community Farm Field Day, I would go ahead and drop this into that same little pot. And then, you can go ahead and grow some wildflowers and, have a little ecosystem going on in that little pot that we provided at the end of the year. With that, if we have no more questions, comments, go and let Lisa go. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I kind of ran over, so I didn't get to do my Kahoot, but I'll save that for another time.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
okay.
I talk too much. I'm really sorry about that.
Anyway, for the students that are still on, go ahead and stick around and we will be rolling on with our leadership lesson.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure getting to meet you. It's great work you're doing.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Cool. 1 second. All right, thank you for rejoining our farms leadership session. We have a couple of students from from Historic Durham Ferry and one from Health Careers Academy. Thank you for completing the surveys that I had sent you, one from 16 personalities, the next one from, I think it's One Career Stop. That's a really cool survey. Check them out. And the first one to complete it, a little bit of an overachiever here, did it before we even started the leadership session. Michelle Lopez, if you don't mind, go ahead and tell us what your personality type was. Some of the traits of that personality type and some of the career fields that you think best complement and work in your favor, or you could excel at.
Hi, I'm Michelle, and my personality type was protagonist. And some of the 5 careers that I got was family medicine, physicians, midwife, physical therapist, registered nurse, chiropractor. And then some of the traits are being tolerant, reliable, charismatic, altruistic, and natural leader.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Michelle. All right, Owen, you are next up. Go ahead.
My name is Owen Rockman. My personality trait was mediator. A couple of the careers I got were things like aerospace engineers and like material scientists, neurology, and physical sciences. Sure. And then just some of the truths, I didn't see exactly where to like list off specific truths, but like mediators, they're kind of just the people who are always in the middle, hearing every side of an argument and trying to find the most fitting solution to the problem at hand. So that's kind of what I got from it, which fits pretty well with who I am.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Owen. I think, let's see, let's hear from Jada.
Hi, I'm Jada. So I got INFG, which is an advocate. So it was 84% introverted and then 16% extroverted. So they said that they're caring, quiet, and sensitive. Guess that sounds a lot like me. And then the careers were art therapists, art, drama, and music teachers, English language and literature teachers, preschool teacher, Mostly teacher, I don't know why. But I don't know, that doesn't sound like me. It sounds more like my sister because she likes to write more than I do. And yeah.
Sure. And I can't remember, juniors at Historic German Ferry?
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, as I had previously mentioned, definitely retake them again, maybe when you're a senior and, maybe while you're in college, especially early in college, while, you're going through some of your general education, if you pursued a sort of college university degree, because then you can at least have some of your general ed done and then switch your major. And then, you don't feel like you wasted any time on changing your major. So definitely good to have a little bit of inventory now and then go into it and try it again, and I don't know, just see what else is out there. Thank you, Jada. Jenna.
I'm Jenna, and my personality type was mediator as well. And some of the careers I got was architect, interior designer, film and video editor, landscape architect, and creative writer and poet, which sounds like me because I like to build, but I also like to write and read books on my free time.
Terrific. Yeah, I think that that whole reading books aspect can, it's really important because, how do you get more information? One, there's sort of online tutorials where there's videos and stuff, but especially as we explored in our field day with the Plant Materials Center in Lockford, California, the farm manager there spends a lot of time reading manuals, whether it be for how to fix the equipment, or whether it be to, sort of what the implementation of a new study is going to be. There's just a lot there, paperwork, etc. And, I think finding the intersection of, your reading, your enjoyment of reading and, etc., that will definitely work in your favor. That said, it is Friday and we totally went for 2 hours with our session. If you combine this plus the field day with Lisa Klotz of Cal Waste, so we'll definitely want to thank her. And thank you all for being here. Any other questions, comments, anything at all? No, you just want to go. It's super hot outside. It's 80 something degrees. So I'll let you go. And I don't know, thank you for staying all the way through. And I hope you guys got something out of, the field day and then also this leadership lesson. So bye.